from this overview, I want to go to present day contemporary India, and what is loosely called the Modi age, right? And you do address this in the last section of your book. So I'm kind of moving backwards from the final chapters of your book backwards. And, when Modi won, you had written an open letter to him. And you had said at that time, which you repeat in your book, be the Savarkar in your heart, but be the Baba Saheb Ambedkar in your mind. Yeah. And in your book, you say that you wish you had told the Prime Minister to place Gandhi in his soul. Now, I want you to, when I say Gandhi, I mean the Mahatma, of course, your grandfather. I want you to talk about this. Be the Savarkar in your heart, the Ambedkar in your mind, and the Mahatma Gandhi in your soul. What do you mean by these three nomenclatures?
Thank you for that question. Not just because it's a very good question, but because it makes me think through what I have said. Every individual is entitled to her or his hero or heroine. And our Prime Minister is entitled to his hero. And if that is Savarkar, that is our Prime Minister's prerogative. So if Savarkar is in his heart, as I believe he is, I must respect that. But I want to tell him that there are others in the habitat of India's renaissance, in the ecology of India's civilization, who have made us what we are. Ambedkar, in terms of the great propulsion he gave to the depressed classes, and Gandhi to the great voltage he gave to India as an entity which knows its divisions but heals its divides. To be divided is not the same thing as to be divisive. So I thought that the Prime Minister of India, who is the Prime Minister of all of India, not just those who voted for him, but for all those who are Indians, he must know that there are people who prize Ambedkar and Gandhi as there are people who prize Savarkar. And this is not a question of making constituencies of them, but this is a question of seeing India as the result of the joint emotional investments, spiritual and political energies of a generation that is called the generation of India's freedom fighters.
It also, in a way, captures, Mr. Gandhi, the multitude of political ideologies that make up a whole, right? And if you look back at the independence struggle, the Congress at that time, the Indian National Congress, was described as a big tent party that had room for everybody. Shyama Prasad Mukherjee was invited to be part of Nehru's cabinet. When you say to the Prime Minister, be the Savarkar in your heart, the Ambedkar in your mind, and the Mahatma Gandhi in your soul, in a way, it's also an acknowledgement that you can have your personal preference, but the country, our country, will be a composite unit, the sum of all of its parts. And that is what public life is about.
Yes, you're absolutely right. That is what I have in mind. That's what I would look to in any government. A coalition is a technical phrase which refers to the inclusion of members of another party in the same government. But a coalition, in a larger sense, is a congruence of people with different views. Now, Gandhi and Nehru themselves were persons of very different views. But
that's right.
And Sardar Patel and Nehru were persons of very different views. You mentioned the great Shyama Prasad Mukherjee. In the same cabinet, there was Gopalkrishna Gandhi, who was not a politician. There was John Mathai, who was not a politician. And there was Ambedkar himself, who belonged to no party at that point but himself. The Constituent Assembly's greatness lies not just in the magnificence of the document it produced, but in the majesty of its own chemistry. It represented India, and mind you, Barkha, it was not a directly elected assembly. It was an indirectly elected assembly. And yet, it was so representative. It had very few women, 15 if I'm not mistaken. But look at what those women contributed. It is not just numbers, but it is the persons. And among those women, forget everyone else in the Constituent Assembly. To come back to your question about what this amalgamation really means, coalition means, there was a princess, Rajkumari Ambedkar, Christian Sikh, and there was Velayudhan. She was an extraordinary woman. Devayani Velayudhan from the Malabar, depressed classes. There was Hansaben Mehta. There was Ammu Swaminathan. Each person representing not just a segment, but a part of the soul of what was India. Those 15 women by themselves represented the ethos, not just of India's womanhood, but of India's entire population.
Yeah. Mr. Gandhi, I want to come back from the heady days of India's freedom movement to the Modi age that we live in. And if I were to move on to how you look at this age, you talk about the Prime Minister as being not just the leader of the BJP, but also a supremo. Right? You write in your book, Modi was not just the leader of his party, but the supremo. You have elsewhere called him a supremacist by instinct. But you have also said that this is not the new leader of an old party. This is a new helmsman. If we can go on to the next slide, I want to actually be very specific in here. Modi was a new helmsman at the stern of a new boat. What is this new boat? What is this new India? I think you write about how India is a country that now seeks power in the world. And there are many people who believe that the Prime Minister today is the vehicle or the channel of that ascendancy, of that supremacy. So I want you to talk a little bit about this description. Modi was the new helmsman at the stern of a new boat.
It was not just a new person becoming Prime Minister of India, occupying the seat which had been occupied by Jawaharlal Nehru and later on by Indira Gandhi and Rajiv Gandhi. But this was a man who, like Fridtjof Nansen of Norway, made his own boat, as Nansen did, his boat called the From, which went to the North Pole. This man's boat was not a BJP boat, it was his own boat. And he was putting it afloat. And here he was doing what VP Singh had done. And VP Singh also was the helmsman at the stern of a new boat. He was the helmsman. His new boat was egalitarianism. It is a different matter that VP Singh was a very short term in power, but VP Singh was a man with a new vision. He did not owe his being Prime Minister to either ancestry or to preferment or to privilege, but for a short while, a spark. The whole country looked up to him as something new. Similarly with Modi. And when I say what I am saying about VP Singh and Narendra Modi, I am highlighting the newness of it, which is not the same thing as an immaculacy or an absolute perfection of it. No, not at all, not at all. I'm just saying this was something new. Both of them were supremacists. VP Singh was a Democrat, but he had in him the makings of a very powerful person, a very powerful leader. And his strength lay in speaking a new language altogether, holding out a new hope. And I must say here that had Jayaprakash Narayan and Ram Manohar Lohia ever been in that position, I think they would have done the same.
I want to ask you about this very interesting analogy between the Prime Minister today and VP Singh. As you mentioned, VP Singh's tenure was a short-lived tenure. Prime Minister Modi is in his third term, making him one of the most powerful politicians, perhaps more akin to, most people have compared him to Indira Gandhi and not to VP Singh. I'm curious to understand from you why your metaphor or your parallel is VP Singh and not Indira Gandhi.
Because I feel VP Singh tried something that had not been tried earlier. He was launching a new book, completely new vessel, with a vision that was his own, equality. it was not as if his predecessors did not believe in an equal society. They did. Indira Gandhi did too. But here was a craftsman of a new polity. His support of so many new ventures, I do not even have to mention Mandal, but his support of so many egalitarian steps, which were new, not just painted new, but made anew, makes VP Singh a fascinating figure. Narendra Modi is somewhat like that. VP Singh succeeded a very strong Congress tradition when he defeated, through a mathematical formula, no doubt, Rajiv Gandhi. Narendra Modi came into power after 10 years of a very distinguished prime ministership led by Manmohan Singh. But it was not something different of the same, but something new. Something which the people of India regarded as change, which in West Bengal, Mamata Banerjee encapsulated in the word parivartan. Parivartan.
Yeah, that's interesting. But can I ask you what this success of Prime Minister Modi tells you about how India is changing? There is, after all, unlike VP Singh, who, yes, represented a new phase in politics, was short-lived. There is a repeated success of the Modi brand of politics. And that's why you say he's not just the leader of the BJP, he is a supremo. But there is something in him that is appealing repeatedly to those who vote for him, right? And my question to you is, how do you see this new India?
The new India that has voted for him is not a creation of Narendra Modi. It is the creation of time. And whatever be the change that a person tries to make or bring about in India, India changes that person much more than that person changes India. And I must say here, I don't think Narendra Modi is the same person today as the Narendra Modi who took office in 2014. He has also learned some lessons, including very significantly the lesson of an electoral setback in the general elections of 2014. He lost more than 1.5 lakh votes in his own constituency. 2 or 3 of his ministers got many more votes than he did. So yes, he's a supremo. But the supremo of supremos in India, Barkha, the people of India, and their supreme instrument is the instrument of surprise. No victory is so victorious as to say, I have won. And no defeat so permanent as to say, Ayo, I am lost.
Yeah. I want to ask you, talking about Modi's constituency, Varanasi. In 2014, you are asked by Yogendra Yadav to run against Modi, who is just entering his Lok Sabha innings, right? Beginning his Lok Sabha innings. And you decline that. He asks you repeatedly, the AAP wants you to be their candidate and to be the person who takes on the Prime Minister, not yet a member of Parliament. He's Gujarat Chief Minister still, in Banaras, in Varanasi. Do you ever look back at that time and rethink that choice to not run against Narendra Modi?
No, I have no illusions about myself. With what face do I ask the people of Varanasi or any constituency to vote for me? What have I done to deserve their vote? Here, you may well ask me, so what had you done to ask the MPs of Parliament to vote for you when you stood for the vice presidentship? I have an answer for that, and I could give it to you if you ask me that question.
That's my next question. So let me let me talk to you about the time you were asked to run against Narendra Modi and what made you say no.
I said no because nobody wants to say, "Ah, bel mujhe maar." Nobody wants to say, "Here, great bull with two piercing horns, come and pierce me." Also,
Yes.
while you have introduced me in correct family tree concept, in family tree analogies, as the
Yes.
grandson of so and so, for me to say to the people of Varanasi, मैं गांधी जी का पोता हूं, मुझे वोट दो, would have made me feel very low about myself. There is a counterpoint to this, which may have made me and Narendra Modi sort of on par in 2014. Both of us were outsiders in Banaras. Neither he nor I belonged to Banaras. But he was already the prime ministerial face of a big party. I was the face of nothing except the mirror which I look at. It would have been absurd for me to stand there. I did not want an absurdity to be publicly found to be absurd.
Okay, that's very charmingly or disarmingly candid, coming from you.